Hello, it is Monday. You know what that means. Just getting set up here a little bit. A couple technical things to address. I learned today if speedtest.net cannot ping a server at all, you might not have the strongest internet connection. So, checking the comments here. Cindy's here, Jeremy's here. Jeremy is here as well. Jeremy is saying, Nick, I think Jeremy's my guest tonight. I've been trying to get this particular individual on the show since, I would say, the second episode. Because the first episode, I had no plan. So, I can't really say I plan to have this guy on the first one. But since that first episode, I said, I need to get this guy on here because he's very knowledgeable. As far as touring, as far as bands at all levels, at the low exposure, medium exposure, high exposure. He knows what's going on with all these bands. He's got tons of advice to give and pass along. Melody's here. Melody's watching on YouTube right now. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do more intro. This guy. I'm just going to let him in. I hear him at the door. He's taking his shoes off the Canadian way. I need to turn the music down because we are getting flagged for copyright strikes, but that's fine. I'll figure that out later. So without further ado, to introduce everybody, I'm going to move myself over here. Mr. Nic Bell Sr. He is
That's ridiculous. That's actually me playing piano right now. Why are you getting flagged for that?
I like ridiculous. How you got the mug in one hand and the other hand was using for talking, and you were still playing.
It's on a loop, so
I better say that's quite the sustain pedal you've got. If it can keep kind of going and hitting the hammers there.
Yeah, I'll let you borrow it.
I'm just gonna try to finish your intro, Nick. So you've got One9 booking agency. Are you the CEO there and president and?
Yeah, I guess it's something that I started with Lucas Joyner of Artist War Records and Intercept Music. So it was just something that evolved out of, I mean, it's still basically just me, booking there and doing all that. But yeah, there's like a silent partner, if you will, with that. So that's Lucas. He's awesome.
So you have One9 booking. And then you have Godsize Records, which you just launched recently. Was it last year you launched that?
Yeah. We basically officially launched July of last year. And, had a few things in place and started getting everything rocking and rolling. And then, of course, just life's hitches, and then the worldly pandemic, and so just started out as like a division of EMP label group, Ellefson Music Productions, Tom Hayes-Hart and that, who I still work for with them at the Ellefson Talent Agency as well, booking there, basically facilitating all of David's non-Megadeth stuff and
non-Megadeth bands, yeah.
Right. And then so ended up, with Lucas here, aforementioned fella with Artist War Records and Intercept Music, and they hooked me up with a distribution deal at Intercept for Godsize, and so just released our first record officially through it, a Left for Dead record, the Maniacal Hour, which is happens to be my band. But that's actually a super old record with a wonderful story to tell about it someday. But yeah, basically, long story short, you know how it goes. We ended up having the rights, turned back over to us and being able to do whatever we wanted with it. And so I figured, hey, this could be a really good beta test for me and the label to, finally put this record out. I knew it's not going to sell a bunch of records, but it was a record that was there, everything I needed to put out, and just kind of feel my way through the process of releasing a record and all the fun stuff that goes along with that. And so yeah, that's what's going on right now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Left 4 Dead, because that was the third thing I was going to bring up, because you're the bassist in Left 4 Dead as well. So, Nic, booking agent, you have a label, you also have a band. And this day and age, so many of us in music that are doing music professionally, we wear multiple hats. So the idea of someone says, "Oh, I just do this, or I just do that, or the other thing," like I feel like that's less and less these days. And I feel like some of these jobs kind of blend together. Like you just kind of seamlessly move over to do one or the other sort of thing. So I remember when you mentioned that you were getting the label together, I'm like, that makes sense. There's lots of people in production that are like, they start management companies because they start working with these artists or bands, and like, well, I'm just going to have more say in what's going on. They start managing them. And then sometimes that morphs into a label, and sometimes that branches out into other things. So we met, was it 2016, the end of 2016?
That sounds accurate. Yeah, it was still Never Say Die.
Yeah, you can say
yeah.
it. Yeah. So we met then, and I kind of wanted to hop in there. Not that we can just talk about our bands on DearBands, but what made you decide to reach out to a band like ours, which became
well, I mean, besides the obvious, there was already pieces there to work with.
What's
so you had the My Darkest Days, name to tag on to Never Say Die, which it was at the time. So Dead Set Society, whatever. So that helped it. That gave it something to, establish itself on, get people's attention, when I'm reaching out to try to sell the band and book dates. I think that gave us a definite leg up. And then the music was it was amazing. I could hear every song that I had heard at the time, being demoed out. I could hear on the radio, number one, just same, level in my mind. I could see the band being My Darkest Days. You know what I mean? So, the good tunes matched up with the featuring members of, Blessing that was, that is kind of a no-brainer, for somebody trying to, also, like me, I mean, I'm trying to accumulate as many great bands as I can. So a young band, like, brand new band at the time, like Never Say Die, Dead Set Society, that's a band I want to be involved with. That's a band I want to work with, so right away. I mean, speaking to you're always one with, complete understanding. You're easy to talk to. You get it. So, I mean, really it was like the complete package as far as Dead Set Society went, as a no-brainer. So, but other bands, it's a lot of different factors. Reality, like, what is your worth ethic? What is your budget? Because really, in reality these days, if you don't have a budget, figure out how to get one, because that's a big part of it. So you have to have the talent and the look and all the things of the past. But now, yeah, you need to have a very strong work ethic and, some type of budget behind you to be able to afford to work and hopefully, work your way through the industry, if you will, and get to a place where you feel like you're successful, whatever that is.
I want to grab two points from what you're saying there. I'll start with the second one. When you mention budgets, you're talking about tour support budget, like money for a band to get out and get working, promo, whatever else they need to kind of make it work when they're on the road. Correct?
All the things, promotional, any promotional opportunities, radio, all of these things cost money. Like legitimately, there's very little things that are free unless, I work for you. No, that's a joke. So
we put in some sweat equity with some of these projects. I do get that.
Yeah, there's a definite need. You'd have to be a very, very special band to be able to achieve a lot of the things that you would probably hope to achieve without having some type of investor or your own nest egg that you've built, collectively as a band, or even just, some rich daddy in the band, but it's very difficult to go out there and do it. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not trying to ever candy coat anything with anybody. I usually will actually tell like the worst story, just to do that, and embrace people for the fact that, yeah, it's definitely work. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's fun. You get to go and play music every day and travel around the country and all those fun things, but doesn't mean that there's like a place for you to come home to or everybody has expenses. And so if you have a band of 4 people, you have to figure you have to make some money. You have to have some money. If you're a brand new band nobody's ever heard of, you can't expect to be going out on the road and making a bunch of money, playing dive bar after dive bar and building up your name and going through the whole, paying your dues process, without having a budget, buying onto a bigger tour, exposing yourself to bigger crowds night after night, and kind of jumping over steps A, B, and possibly C, but yeah, it circles back to that dirty dollar. So you got to have it.
No, and that's you can expand on this a little bit, because that's one of those things where, like, when Dead Set started, the business model we put together, the band kind of didn't have to make money for a year. It is one of those things I think bands don't really realize. Like, my quick and easy when bands are asking, like, how much does it cost to go on tour? I'm like, just assume it's $300 a day. It's $100 for where you're staying. It's $100 for food, and then $100 for gas. You're probably going to come in under those, but just go ahead and just budget that for everything. So when you look at 10 days is $3,000, 30 days is $9,000. That's when some people start to shy away from the idea of going out. When you mentioned too with promotion stuff for radio, people ask like, what would you budget for radio? And you're like, okay, like just off the cuff for a rock band, I would budget 10 or 15,000 for 3 or 4 month campaign. And as soon as you start giving them these numbers, they start thinking like, that's a lot of money. And then now they're not. And if you're Canadian, you've got your visas to go down to the States and tour. So it's another $2 or $3,000 that you might need to put in. Oh, and then if you're Canadian, guess what? That $100, it's now American dollars. So times 30% onto everything that you're looking at. So just kind of getting going. Like, I think you can pick your spots as far as how long you want to go out for. But when we went out, because we didn't really have a radio campaign past what Sirius XM Octane was doing with Like a Nightmare at that point. But also, like, personally, I didn't know anybody enough or trust anybody enough to go, yeah, let's throw 10,000 at a radio campaign. Because I'm a firm believer, this ties into something else too, I'm a firm believer, sometimes someone's job is to get paid, and once they have your money, they've done their job. And there's lots of people, I know people in production, there's lots of people in music, people in promotion, where, you give them $3,000 to help promote your record, and then you're just like, they spent a lot of time trying to get paid. Now that they got paid, they're just, it's all excuses. It's all fluffed emails. It's not really, but one of the things too, cause like full disclosure, there was times on our tour where we're just like, where are we? What are we doing? like, what are we doing here? But like, there's a lot of ups and downs with a new band that's touring. And sometimes you got to go through a little bit of mud to get a little bit of paradise. And it's like, it's okay. And I think there's a lot of bands when they're on tour, they just think everything's going to be kind of even keel. Sometimes you're playing to 7 people in the bar staff. Sometimes you've got 300 people in a room and you weren't even expecting that sort of thing. And it's like, I would always reassure myself and the guys, like, this is part of the journey. Nic would not put us here if he thought it was dangerous or a waste of time. If he genuinely thought that. Because you never put us into a situation where I'm just like, what is this? Because I knew where we were as a band. And once things were getting better, you were able to find some better gigs or find some better tours. And like, it's part of that growing process. And
yeah, that's the plan usually, is to graduate from those, instances, I would say, not even venues necessarily. Because sometimes you could be in a great venue and it's a clunker of a show. It's not a reflection of the venue or anything, but yeah, I mean, just being able to evolve to showing buyers that you have value, because that's ultimately what it is, is you're out there promoting your brand, trying to create value in your brand and a buzz for your brand. And like you said about the radio, 10 to 15, that's just to get started.
It's just to get the ball going.
That's just to get the ball rolling. Because once you get the ball rolling, they're like, oh, this has legs. We need to jump,
we need another 10. And you're just like,
yeah,
really?
let's push this. Really, let's get it to the top 40. Let's go, and then so it's all a game. But I mean, obviously, yeah. At the end of the day, you hope for that investment to be one that pays off. Where in our world, where touring and being able to secure, better guarantees and, better opportunities as far as just all tours go, and eventually moving away from being a buy-on band to a band that can go out and do, a few week tour on their own and have a band smaller buy-on to their tour, and kind of recycling the process as you move along. That's the plan anyways, to become successful. That's what I think all of us who put our time and efforts into doing this with our art, that's ultimately the end goal. I mean, it's not to end up homeless, I wouldn't think, but it's definitely a possibility too. So,
well, that's not the living in the van thing, because we half joke about that, but for a lot of bands on tour, that kind of is what it feels like. But I think the main point of it, it's like when you have a team and you have people you trust their opinion, like real talk on your end, you would like to get paid as well. Real talk, the band would like to get paid as well. Everyone would like to get paid something. But the idea, when you have people that you trust, you're always looking at the bigger picture of like, where can this grow to? And I don't think there's a lot of bands that can actually go and tour for a year, not a year straight, but like have you say, this year we're going to focus on touring and just building the brand and not worry so much about the guarantees, not worry so much about our merch sales. Just go out there and meet some fans and connect and build. And then the next time you come through, hopefully it's bigger. Next time you come through, hopefully it's bigger. It's like, they don't have the patience for that. You go out, and especially bands in Canada, because Canada is not great for touring because geographically, the way the cities are, it's almost, it's impossible if you're not with somebody that's larger. You go do one tour, you lose your shirt, and you're just like, not doing it again. It's way too expensive. And that's why we get sideways looks when we just, again, with Dead Set, we got in the van and we went down and started playing our first shows in the States. And everyone's like, why did you do that? And it's like, it's expensive. I'm like, because you can drive 3 hours and play somewhere else. When you're in, no offense, but when you're in Winnipeg, you can't just drive 3 hours and play somewhere else. I'm saying that because Cindy's online right now. I want to grab one of her questions or one of her statements here. So we're talking about promotion. Cindy was saying, well, I think that promotion through social media can be an exception, especially if a person has a successful page, has any followers. Yes and no. Because like when you're really doing promotions through social media, if you're a larger band and you've got a new record coming out, you're not just putting posts up and content. You're doing probably 15 to 20 targeted ads on Facebook, and you're probably putting like $200 to $500 a day into it for a while. And that sounds crazy, but there's articles talking about, even like a few years ago, there's articles talking about what some major label bands were spending on targeted ads on Facebook. And it's 50,000, 80,000, 150,000, because it's better than commercials to get the word out for the record, to get the word out for the tour coming up, or for new merch or the new campaigns they're doing. So instead of putting it into commercial time, via TV and radio, you're putting it into the internet. And you can have those targeted ads, and you can figure out what's reacting, what's not reacting, what markets are reacting, what age groups are reacting. So there's something unfortunately to be said about the organic reach of even Spotify or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter.
They only let you be as
reach.
Organic as they want you to be. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm not, and it's not to say with that freemium apps or, but there is a little bit when you can start seeing some numbers really starting to get cranked online. It's like there's some funny business at times when you can see into it. But again, I would say for bigger bands, like, they're for sure running sponsored ads. You're stupid not to these days, especially with how much it really costs. But
if you have the budget,
yeah, the organic reach, it's not as good as we think. And the thing is like you can put some as far as a baseball analogy, you can have Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa stepping up to bat, or you can have a regular Joe third baseman that's not on the goods. You know who you're cheering for at the end of the day, who's getting in front of people. That said, I run not Dead Set. I run like 10th Machine ads at $3 a day, and we still get another 5 or 10 likes on Facebook a day just from that. It's just it's not.
What are those likes? What are those likes equating to though? As far as your investment, are you seeing increased streams? Are you seeing?
Yes. And it's a bit of a drip right now. It's just I would rather just kind of, because we're not out touring and we don't have, like, because we put a record out in May. I would just rather keep that drip going, because I know that if we've got another single coming out, or if we got a tour to announce or something, I can change from 3 to 15 and with just a couple keystrokes, and then target, if you're going on tour, you can just target cities with it, just duplicate your ads and just target those cities, and you can put some more money on that for 2 weeks. That's kind of my hack that I've used on it. But as far as seeing the returns, it's like, as long as I keep seeing steady, 2, 3, 5 new followers on Spotify, I'm happy, because it means it's still getting out there. It's still dripping in, sort of thing. And then with one of those fans, someone's going to buy a record. And even Dead Set, like, I stopped those ads when they put the band on hiatus, but it's like, even on Twitter, I know that Twitter is what was allowing us to sell so much merch. We were getting the best turnover, the best conversion as far as new followers on Twitter, and then selling merch off of that. You'd see a correlation between the two, because sometimes I run ads for a bit and then I stop and see what happens. And if nothing changes, I'm like, okay, let's put money somewhere else. But if like something does change, I'm like, okay, then we need to make sure we keep doing this. So anyways, a bit of a tangent there with some of the expense stuff, but I think it's important for bands to understand that, like,
budget.
Yeah,
the budget.
I hear when bands are like, it wants to be completely natural and organic and stuff, it hits a point where just, that's not enough. It's not enough. And once you realized you could have been doing a bit more, where there's 4 people in your band, if everyone was throwing in, $2.50 a week, the price of non-Starbucks copy, it's like, you could have so much more reach with that $10 a week or that $40 a month. It just, anyways.
Yeah. Easy things. Yeah.
So there was that. I want to step back for a second, because you mentioned with Dead Set, there was the My Darkest Days connection. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of those things where it's like, we were not shying away from that, because we know that it added value to the project. And also, as you're saying, like, it's a bit of a conversation started to get the door open. And we knew that, like, after a year, we would probably stop talking about it. And it was a bit of a shock when you're used to going in and doing radio and you're talking about you know, Porn Star Dancing, or talking about My Darkest Days, or talking about the tour, all this stuff. But it's like once that stopped being a conversation point in radio interviews, we're just like, wow, like it's like we felt like the training wheels had come off, and like we now had to just be on our own with what we're talking about, what the band was. You as an agent, you've got this great band, but you don't have a story, versus you've got a band that's good, but it has a story. I get that it's easier to sell the one to the venues that's got the story behind it. Oh, so-and-so's the bass player from this band. Sure, sounds good. Let's get him, because you can put it on the poster.
Yeah. Or at least hope that, a band like My Darkest Days, like you might not draw like every My Darkest Days fan, but there's enough of those diehards that, aren't going to miss coming to see Brendan or Reed, or, they're there. It's built in right away. So there's like fans naturally built in, so as a buyer, as I do, I wear that hat as well. We do a bit of that. Me and my buddy Jeff, SLM Entertainment. And, so as a buyer, that's like, okay, that feels pretty safe. This is a brand new band. This is good tunes. I could see, hopefully this project having legs by the time our show came, typically not a lot of money, for these types of, bills. So it's easy for a buyer to take a chance on it, when you have enough little pieces of ammo to shoot at them, it makes it feel easy for everybody, so yeah, my Darkest Days, Porn Star Dancing, that's usually enough right there to get a buyer's interest. And like you said, conversation starter, opening the door, hey, yeah, let's make this work. That's my, and objective every time is let's make something work. Let's get a deal done, and let's everybody smile and shake hands and have a great night, So when you have things like that to attribute and associate with a band, it definitely gives more firepower than this badass band full of 18-year-olds, just out of high school. They're smoking. They're great. They're going to be awesome. But it's, that band could end up being 3 Days Grace. But right then and there, nobody knows dick about them. Nobody cares. It's a harder sell,
Well, that's the thing. It's a harder sell because there was, using 3 Days Grace as an example, there's the 3 Days Grace that's before I Hate Everything About You, and then after it came out. And it's like 1 month before it came out, it's a hard sell. There's a band from Canada. They're trying to tour. They got a lot of promise. They got a really strong record. And all this stuff, we're just saying this is hypothetically what probably happened. But then after the song comes out, after the record starts to blow up, now it's an easy sell. And the idea this has been one of my pet peeves with bands, where they're just like, our songs are great, our band's great, our live show's great. And I'm just like, and what? Like, show me, well, now it's like, show me some Spotify numbers. Show me some numbers on your live streams. Show me the engagement on your posts. I don't care if you've got 100,000 likes.
Exactly.
If you've got 10 comments, I don't care. So
yeah, if you got 2 million views on your song on YouTube and there's 10 comments, I smell something fishy. Let's just be very real.
Is funky going on there. Yeah, so it's things like that where I don't feel I truly understood what story meant, because I always felt like that was a bit of a cop-out. We're like, oh, what's the band's story? What's the band's story? Until we started getting Dead Set going and realizing we really need to be playing that My Darkest Days card, because, and even Canadians don't realize how big that band was down in the States. Because Porn Star Dancing was big in Canada, but it was nowhere near as big as it was in the States. And even with Reed and Brendan, it's like we were going to all these places, all these stops, and they always ran into MDD fans. So it's it's understand. That's when I understand the story, because we have that one piece that people can't can't avoid. If you got a top 40, or if you did a co-write with so and so, or you have this other piece to kind of attach on to kind of give it validation and kind of vouch for it, and then you can move forward and move past that sort of thing. So I always thought that was interesting. That was an interesting part of the story, that you with your experience, you could see that piece that you could sell. Because again, we're a band, we're a product, and you're an agent, and you're just like, I can sell this. And you hopped in quick, and you asked about tour, and like we built the wings on the way down with that. It was like, okay, let's just go do this, and we'll just get our visas and go.
You really did. You just really you just sent it, as they say. Yeah, but I think it's refreshing working with a band full of guys like you guys that are just hungry and excited and not and also smart. You're not dumb. You guys knew what to do, and you see. Well, there's not a lot to show for it right at this moment because of the state of the industry and whatnot. But you were building you built the momentum into Tense Machine, and have pretty much had that moving, without a real hitch. And then, the pandemic came along and kind of put a slow to everybody's roll in that regard. So, but, hypothetically, I think we would have seen, the plan really coming to fruition right now. I would have anticipated a really good summer and fall for Tense Machine, and I don't know really what there was. I'm sure there was great tours. And like you said, there's a lot of great new songs that Tense Machine has to offer. And I know you guys would have had a great radio campaign going just for those.
Well, that was the thing too. It's like we were trying to get a campaign together for October to hopefully we were planning back in June that things would hopefully be safer by now, that we could put our campaign together, and then we kind of pulled the chute on that in August. But like, again, back to budgeting, it's like there's your tour support money, there's your radio support money, there's your your new visuals, like there's all these things that have to come together. And I feel like if you can't kind of have, if one of the pieces aren't there, especially if your touring's not there, it's like stop spending money on stuff, because it's not, as far as the business model,
you can't capitalize on it really.
Yeah. You're just kind of you're still missing one of the wheels, so you're gonna end up doing more damage. I wanted to hop over because you brought up buy-ons, which can be a dirty word or dirty concept for some people. My opinion is that opening a slot on a bigger tour, like there's a lot of value there. So when people are like, oh, they bought on that tour, it's like, well, if that's what the slot was worth, and if you're going to be in front of 1,000 people a night,
I always say, it has to make sense. It has to be a smart buy-on, but it could also be a really good yardstick for a band. Like, if like you said, if you're getting put in front of a good amount of heads every night, and you can't find a way to make that investment work out, then maybe this isn't for you. Maybe back to the drawing board. There's a lot to be learned in a failed buy-on, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of buy-ons. I think they have to make sense, and obviously you have to work smart. But if you come to those conclusions that this is a smart buy-on and you do all the right things and you still come up short of recouping your investment, then maybe you shouldn't be touring. I don't know.
Well, let's define a failed buy-on. Where would you start? How if a band wanted to fail a buy-on, where would you start with that?
Well, I mean, obviously it'll always come down to talent. If you suck, you suck. There's never
Okay,
gonna be.
So don't suck.
Don't
If
suck.
your band sucks, don't buy on a tour.
It goes without saying. I mean, unless it's like you're just a super rich, you know, fanboy dude, and you got a bucket list you're trying to check off, and you feel like going and dropping 20K on some rad little tour buy on, and you don't really care what happens. You just want to look cool on Facebook. Well, then go. By all means, somebody would love to have your money. So, you know,
that brings up a good point, because there's times when I've heard buy-ons that people have either accepted or have been offered, and the amount of money it is, I'm like, you know me well enough. It's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. And I use every bone in my body to just stop from being like, I don't think they actually want you. I think they're trying to soak you for a bunch of money. And that's one of my things. It's like, if there's 5 bands that they're picking from, and it's a reasonable buy-on, they've opened it up to bands they actually want. And my thing would be like, make sure that they kind of do want you on the tour, but they realize that the spot has value, sort of thing. Like, it's okay in business. It's okay for money to exchange hands for some of these things that have value. But with a couple in particular, I was just like, I heard how much it cost for them to buy onto it. I was just like, no,
yeah,
they don't want you.
No, and that's the thing is, if you have enough money, you can pretty much probably do whatever you wanted to.
You can find a friend
in this industry. Yeah, you can accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
All right, so don't suck, don't overpay.
Well, yeah, don't overpay, because that's what I'm saying. Is like, I would hope that, just speaking with all these hypotheticals, that, said tour, you would be playing in front of, obviously not the full crowd. Your opening band, you're looking at half of the house, like, let's say, realistically. And let's say half of the house. If you can't capture half of the house, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You gotta convert some of those fans.
And you're not seeing that at the merch booth. You're not seeing that at your Spotify, your YouTubes. You're not
online.
You're not seeing this parlay into. I mean, it's an investment. A buy-on is an investment, just like everything else. So if you're not recouping on an investment, or at least achieving what you set out to do with that investment, then I'd say that's a failed buy-on completely.
I'd like to add. There's a couple more things I think we can add. I'd like to add, don't be difficult. Don't be a difficult band to work with. Don't have difficult gear. Don't have a difficult setup. Don't have difficult band members, because all that stuff at any level, all that stuff just, it works its way up through all the tour managers and other musicians and stuff. And I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of bands do talk. A lot of people in the music industry do talk, and if they find it a band difficult to work with, because it's the opposite. When even with Dead Set and with Tense, it's like, going and playing shows, make sure our backline and our gear is as simple as it can be. Because when you're first to 4, no one wants you farting around with stuff. No one wants you going like, where do we put these huge rack-mounted or rack-cased guitar boats and all this kind of stuff? It's like, they want you to make such a small footprint, because the headliner and then usually direct support these days, they've got pretty involved rigs and crews and everything. And it's like, the more seamless your stuff can be, and the easy. I remember years ago when we did the Disturbed Saint Asonia tour with Age of Days, like, there was times we had 7 minutes to set up on the stage on top of Saint Asonia, because there was so much fire with Disturbed show that sometimes, because they need to make sure that's all safe, because everything's on fire every night. There were times, and it's like, I think it was Detroit, the tour manager. He would just be like, you have 7 minutes, like, Saint Asonia go, Age of Days go. and you're trying to get 2 bands, 2 drum kits, 2 everything like set up in 7 minutes. And imagine if you've got a complicated rig. It's not gonna work.
And you know, like you said, the tour managers, those guys, the promoters, they remember the bands that are easy to work with. They remember the bands that were super cool, that, you know, didn't create issues and made everything really simple. Like, it goes a long way. They remember the dudes who were, you know, assholes and problems and came in with rock star attitudes when it's like, hey, dude, you're the opener. Pipe down, you know, and like you alluded to, all this gear and all these, you know, you really need to stifle your expectations as well when you get, you know, just because you're buying on to a tour. I've experienced this with a lot of bands, like much entitlement because they feel like they bought this. They paid for it.
List.
So it's like, I paid for this. I'm bought onto this. It's like, now you sound like a clown. You know, let's just tell the whole world that you know, don't have the talent or the proper whatever to just get a tour, so you have to buy it, which, you know,
it's not bad because it has value.
It's not. It's a thing bad. But I'm saying public perception, the image that you're putting off and whatnot. I think it makes you look weak. And yeah, so I mean, don't do that either. Don't be that guy. Like, just to expand on the, you know, keep it all really simple. You know, be easy to work with. You know,
flexible.
Try to be even helpful. Like, I don't give a shit if you paid to be on this tour. Like, the more you can get into somebody's camp or make friends with various people, like that, those are great dividends to see in your investment. When you can create those relationships and you can, you know, be able to establish different people within the industry, now you're talking. Now you're cooking with peanut oil.
I would add to, because you mentioned with the techs and stuff like that. Again, if you really want to, you know, screw up a buy-on opportunity, make sure all the techs hate your band. Make sure you're jerks to them. Make sure you don't even acknowledge. And because I would say on the flip side, if you're an opening band, if you're a new band, if the headliners have techs, just like when you're on tour, and Jeremy would appreciate this and agree. Do everything you can when you're on tour to make sure whoever's doing your sound, whoever front of house is, especially if you're going from, you know, bar to bar, club to club, make sure that they're happy, because sometimes you do need to win them over a little bit. The techs for other bands, there's 2 parts here, but it's like, techs from other bands, they've usually got a lot of stuff going on, and they usually don't get I don't want to say they don't get a lot of chit chat from people in the hall, because usually you're used to seeing people, but just like even a simple like, hey, how's it going? Do you need anything? Like a sincere one, and you can make friends with the tech or the techs for bands so easily, and it's like they'll pass the word along that you're good to work with, and they're the smiles that you, especially, you know, bands like I've been in where we don't really have a crew or a tech or anything. Like, we're the ones sitting in the hallway with our gear. It's the band. We're not sitting on our bus, sort of thing. So I would say like that's again, if you want to screw up a buy-on, just make sure you ignore the techs and disregard them as human beings and just feel entitled to a lot of
treat
stuff.
everybody like shit. That's the way that
everyone
really
loves it. As you were saying, if you know, we paid for this, we bought on. Oh, if you want to make no friends, go ahead and do that, and you become the, you know, the poster band for that stuff. I wanted to add to, again, you know, being flexible. The amount of times that you get somewhere for 11 and you're sitting with your gear until 4 or 5 or 6 because you just need to be ready for it. You know, it's like, that's what the gig is, especially on larger tours. If you don't have a crew, because you need to be ready when they're ready for you. It's not about what you think the schedule is or what they tell you the schedule is. It's when in real time, when it's rolling, that's what the schedule is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think to recap that quickly, you got the don't suck, don't overpay, be kind, and be patient,
be flexible.
Flexible.
Yeah.
What was the other one we had?
I mean, it kind of all falls to be professional. I mean, don't be that jackass, because, like I said, everybody remembers it. The tour managers, the crews, the promoters,
They remember the bands who were cool and easy to work with, and that usually translates to future, reoccurring bookings, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. So
I want to grab this comment from Alan Parsons here. Also, again, I want to hop on this for a second. Alan's saying also most bands that have bought onto shows don't add any value to that show, so acting like a jerk doesn't help. I would just add to that, if you're in a band and you did buy on a tour, or if you're just a band like first to four on an established tour, be realistic what you add to the tour. Because if you're out with, say you're out with Papa Roach and you're a new band and you're first to three or first to four, understand maybe Papa Roach is selling those tickets.
Yeah.
So there's been a handful of times when I've tried to, I don't want to say bully ourselves onto tours, but been aggressive trying to grab opening slots. If I don't see that if they just announce two bands, and I'm just like, okay, like let's dig around and see who we can get on the phone to see if there's any way we can kind of get in there, or if they're still looking, or if they just haven't announced it yet. But it's like, I don't take offense when someone's like, no, we just want to have 2 or 3 bands on this, because it's like, if they saw there was more value, then they would add us. If they needed somebody, they would add us. Or if we could come up with more convincing story, they would add us. But I don't take it personally where I'm like, okay, they don't feel like we can add enough to that. Because on our end, we're trying to get on in front of more people. And if we see like, oh, Hailstorm's going out, or Breaking Benjamin's going out, it's like, let's try to get on that if we can. No matter how crazy it sounds, it's like, let's try to get on that.
Yeah, those are the crowds you want to be in front of, especially with a band like yours. Getting in front of those heads every night, you're damn near walking away with all of them. Everybody.
You're going to make some fans.
Yeah, that's perfect demographic for you. So yeah, that would be the Taj Mahal tour for bands like active rock band or whatever, Hailstorm, Breaking Benjamin, whatever, Five Finger Death Punch. You're like, yeah, all day. These shows are going to be packed. I will go in there and make a bunch of fans out of those people, and so that right there, is worth investigating and seeing what can be done to try to get on a tour like that, because usually I'd say if there's a chance to get on a tour like that, let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to make this happen, because that's a win. There's a good chance you're going to win from this tour. It will, if you don't suck and you're cool and all those things, you should be able to walk away from a tour like that and have enough gas in your tank from that to drive to the next level, if you know what I mean, metaphorically speaking. So
a couple more things I wanted to touch on with touring. Because again, like where you can grab a band that's new, that's wanting to start and going, you can see the bands that are growing when they're on the road and the ones that are kind of missing something. One of the things that I was always encourage and promote with bands, it's like go to merch as much as you can without getting yelled at. Because there's some bands that don't like the bands hanging out at merch while they're playing, which is totally understandable. They don't like the band at merch after the show because sometimes they want to make sure everyone's going to their merch table after on the way out. That's all fine, but if you find out what the deal is with going to merch,
what's the protocol?
Yeah, it was protocol, and be accessible. And that was one of the main things about with Dead Set being out. It's like we were always at merch. Someone was always at merch generally, so you could always be making friends with people, because like that's where you make core fans. And to turn that over into what's going on these days, because Tense Machine streams 3 times a week now, so we're trying to be accessible there. We're not selling anything at our merch table online, but it's like we're at a place where we can hang out with our friends and our fans. And it's like, I just feel like it's a missed opportunity when I see bands not going to merch, and then they're just like, they're not really selling any merch, and it's one thing to have someone working your merch, but like, and I can say this because there's been many times where someone didn't know I was in the band because I'm working merch the whole time. But it's like, they want to see the singer there. They want to see the band there. They might want to get picture. They, you know, the before times we could give hugs to people. You know, it's like they wanted to see the band there. So when I see bands not going there, and I think it's because they see other bands not going, and it's like you're not getting $7,500 a night yet. You don't have a bus. Like,
yeah,
go.
A lot
go
of
to
them
merch.
still want to play rock star. That's what I'm saying. A lot of them don't want to do the work. They don't want to work hard and do the little things that are necessary to separate you from band A and band B. You know, like you said, and especially in this new technological world that we live in. It's so decades, but you know, the social media and whatnot, you know, you are much more accessible, you know, so to make those fans at the merch booth and to have these relationships that transcend the show, transcend the merch table, you know, and you're able to connect with them literally on a daily, you know, and make sure that, you know, not only are you engaging with them, but hopefully they're helping you engage with others, you know, that's the best relationship I think you can have with your fans, you know, that they actually like defaulto work for you, you know what I mean? Free labor.
They'll spread the word.
Yeah, that's always good. So like you said, getting out and being accessible, you know, can, especially with you guys have a lot of fans. I've booked plenty of shows, you know, at various venues across the Midwest with you guys, and you will see a lot of the same heads. Like they will come to all of the shows that they can make. Like your schedule comes out and they're like, yep, I'm taking off from Wednesday to Sunday. So
I can go see 4 shows. Yeah.
I'm going to go. Yeah. I'm taking my vacation with Tense Machine or whatever, you know, and like, so those are priceless. You know what I mean? That's you continue to build and get, you know, acquire more of those type of people along the way, and that's definitely winning. And so being accessible and establishing those relationships, like some of your fans, I know that like they know your girlfriends, like they know, you know, like the relationships have become like authentic friendships. Like they know like your favorite foods, like they show up with your favorite groceries and things, you know. It's like that's awesome. Like you know what I mean? Like we do appreciate it. It's nice. That's really and that's a testament to being accessible and to making yourself available to your fans that are coming to see you. You know what I mean? And so, like you said, it's a different world in 2020, and being able to adapt is huge. So accessibility is a really big thing. For sure. Yeah,
just again, merch table is live, and I feel like online, like live streaming, it's like that's the easiest point A to B as far as making sure you can
reach out and touch everybody.
Yeah, exactly, and just communicate. I want to do. I'm gonna break my rule of not having drummers that are significantly better than me on the show, but Luke Scott, fantastic drummer. Said also be a pro if you have an opportunity to be on tour. Show up on time, set up quickly, be well rehearsed. Help pack up quickly after set. Be on time. If you're not early, you're late. That's how I feel about it. Be on time, because no one wants to wonder where you are if you're supposed to be somewhere. And do not grumble if you get somewhere on time and you're sitting around for 2 or 3 hours.
That is very natural.
On a bigger tour, it's not your barbecue. It's like they say be there at 11, be there at 11. If you know you're going to be sitting around till 3. Until they're like, show up at 12. And then they're like, show up at 1, you're good. Like, that's when they know, because they don't want you wondering where you are, sort of thing. And yeah, breaking down quick after a set. Nothing.
That just comes down to being professional.
Yeah.
And that whole bit, you know, talking about, understanding that it's Papa Roach's show, not yours. You don't get all of your, you know, bells and whistles, your light show, and your, you know, you might not even have time for your scrims. So
yeah, no, I joke to myself, and like my way, love your band when you're setting up, hate your band when you're tearing down. You're so excited to get your stuff on stage, like get it up there. When you're done, you want that crap off stage so quick. Just start throwing stuff. Like, don't break anything, of course, but love your band setting up, hate your band tearing down. Just get the stuff off stage.
Don't be that dude who like takes off every cymbal of your drum set right there on the stage and breaks down every piece of hardware. And then you drag your cases out there and you have to put your drums in your cases. It's like, bro.
And then also while that's going on, your buddy from high school you haven't seen in 10 years comes up to the stage to tell you great show. And now you got to catch up for a minute. No. Just get your shit off stage.
You're like, hey man, grab the other end of this. We'll keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it drives me nuts when people are trying to talk while you're trying to tear down. Because when you have a crew, like, get it off. And the thing too, it's like time yourself getting your stuff off stage. Like it's one of those things. Like Brendan and I would do the bulk of getting stuff off stage. Back with Dead Set, we'd send Reed and Dane to merch. Because Brendan and I could handle it. We could get stuff packed up. I'm a bit of a stickler with the drums because if something's missing, it's usually something small and you usually can't find it when you're trying to do your next show. But Brendan and I, we could get our stuff off stage. Well, the four of us, we get our stuff off stage in like 6 or 7 minutes. And Brendan and I could get everything like struck and packed up in about 30 minutes. Our entire band. And sometimes if we could, like, we'd be loaded out and back in the trailer in another 10 minutes. Like we could be pretty much, and we even with some of the tours where there's like 15 or 20 minute changeover, we would be packed up before they hit their first note. That was part of our game as well. How can we like responsibly pack everything? Because sometimes you're in a hallway, sometimes you're outside, sometimes you actually have space, sometimes there's actually a back room. It's like whatever you're thrown at that day. So again, it's just there's so many things with shows where you see bands, and this is actually where DearBands kind of formed, is watching bands do stuff on stage and just be like, what are you doing?
Stop it. Yeah. Or like, hey, this is a new one that I love. Is like some of these bands they'll be playing, and it's like they're obviously the support band, local support, and like, so they'll have a nice group of fans there, and like, they'll get like a little chant for like one more song,
No.
And then like the band is like, oh, hey, you guys wanted a song?
No, we don't.
Can we do one more? It's like, no, one more.
You're done. You're done. Your time's over.
Exit stage left. Yeah. Like that's a new fun one that I've just been seeing pop up all the time.
No.
DearBands. If you are not the headliner, you do not get an encore.
No.
That's just how it works. So
I will admit there's one time that I made the executive decision. So you know what? We're gonna get in trouble for this, but I will be the shield. We were opening for Scott Stapp here in Toronto, and Matt Walsh came out because again Peterborough's not too far from Toronto, so he did come out, and I think there was another song on the record that Matt had writing on, and then he wanted to do Porn Star with us, and we're like, okay. But like we could fit 6 songs in our set, so we're trying to shove a 7th in there. So I remember just telling the guys, I'm like, we have to go. Like every song, it's over. Next one. And I remember looking at our time, and being like, we're like, say you need to be done at like 8:57, or sorry, at 9 o'clock, but it's like 8:57, and there's enough time to like do one more song, and I'm like, I know we have another one, and I'm just like, because the last 2 songs in that set, it would be Like a Nightmare and then into Porn Star Dancing, and I remember just thinking like, we can't cut it, and we can't cut anything else in our set right now. Like we just have to keep going to get this done. And I remember the tour manager for Scott Stapp was just burning a hole in me from side stage, because I looked over him and actually mouthed the words, "I am sorry." But like people were going nuts because Waltz hadn't done this song in forever, sort of thing, and he was there, and it's the hometown crowd and everything. And I remember and he was so mad that the tour manager was so mad at us, and I'm just like, I will take all of the lumps on this, because we only did 2 shows with them, but like it's a hometown show, it was pricey for the ticket and everything. And I remember the next day, we were playing with Sarnie the next day, and I apologized as soon as we got there. And the tour manager was kind of laughing. He's like, it's my job to be a bit of, a bit of a hard ass. towards the opening bands and stuff like that. I'm like, I know, but I just was pleading my case. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. That being said, bands, don't do what we did. Like, ask for an extra 5 minutes or cut the song. If you don't think your set's going to fit, like, just work that out on your end, sort of thing.
Yeah. Obviously your situation is a bit different. Given that situation.
Still get in trouble.
That's one of those ones you send it and apologize for it
ask forgiveness
like you did. Yeah. So it's like, man, yeah, we messed up.
I wanted to bring up something. So I know I keep bringing up stuff earlier, but as far as like having problems and stuff, it's like you have your own set of problems every day. I have my own set of problems every day. A tour manager for a headlining act has their own set of problems. Don't add more problems to what they're doing. And that's the whole idea of being flexible and easy as a band. It's like, you want to ask them if they need a coffee. That's the extent of like, you want to bring anything into the world as far as like your interactions with them. But it's like, don't add more problems. Don't go over time. Don't be difficult. Like, don't add, because you know what it's like. You know that every day when you check your email, you're looking for fires first. You're looking for like, what's urgent and important I need to put out right now. Every day.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. If you're smart, yeah, you're hitting up the tour manager every day just to say like, hey, ETA, we're like 20 minutes out. Did you need anything before we get there? You need anything from the whatever gas station you're at, Casey's, Love's, AM, PM, come and go. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever problems the headliner's having, assume they're also your problems to help try to solve a little bit. There is a line. I remember in the Fozzy tour, their drummer, his mixer, the power supply broke on it. And so I had a backup and I'm like, here, just take it. So they used it for a few days until they could replace it and stuff like that. But like, solve those problems for people. I've seen on the Hollywood Undead tour, again, drummer broke a snare and it's like, here, because he didn't have a backup. And that blew my mind. I was like, you don't have a backup snare? He's like, no, I've never broke a snare skin. I'm like, okay, well, here, just use this and you're good. But
yeah, that's definitely, that's what I'm talking about. People remember those bands and those dudes that are eager to help and make their lives easier and be a team player, that shit goes a long ways, as opposed to, that was a snobby ass dickweed who wouldn't let me use his snare. He was so worried about his own snare, those are things that I just would find like super self-defeating, very counterproductive, if you're out there and for instance, Hollywood Undead's snare breaks, and they're like, yo, can we use your snare? And you're like, oh man, my snare.
It's wood rim.
This is my only, my favorite. It's like, wow. Yeah. Awesome, bro. We definitely like you. I definitely think you're cooler now because you love your snare that much.
Yeah. You would not be the most popular person on their bus, but you'd be the most popular topic on their bus. I assure you.
For sure. So, yeah, exactly. And that's not the way you want to do it. That's the opposite of winning your buy-on. Yeah, that's not, not to say that the Hollywood Undead tour was a buy-on or anything. I'm just saying, hypothetically, generic band buying on, as we were with the DearBands topic, not necessarily.
To clarify, we did Dead Set did not buy into the Hollywood Undead tour, but I would go on the record to say that is the fastest I've ever accepted a tour, because when it showed up, I just said like yes and sent it back, and then I basically just told the guys, okay, we have this tour. I didn't even ask if anyone was free. It's like, figure it out.
Yeah. That's one you're like, yep, yes. They're like, do you need to talk to anybody? You're like, nope.
No,
we're good. Write us down. Matter of fact, you need me to sign something? I'm sitting right next to the fax machine. Let's go.
Yeah, let's figure that one out and just get it done. Still on the bands topic, because you reached out to us. When you have bands reach out to you, we've gone a little bit over like what you look for in a band. how often do you just talk to the band to kind of get an idea if they're ready to go tour? Because you know what it's like when a band's excited to go do something, but you're not sure if they're really ready.
Man, I've done so many phone calls, just like be it by myself or with another agent at a different agency, with different bands. Man, I can tell, like early on in a phone call, just having a call with the band, and just a few basic questions and letting their answers pretty much tell me what I need to hear, really. And then it goes back to the things that we talked about. Are they going to be hardworking? Are they going to be pains in my ass? Because I mean, let's be real. Some of these bands, even if you could be a pretty successful band this day and age and still have a hard time securing really great guarantees. It's just another state of the industry that's not glamorous or fun, but it is real. It is real talk. So like, say I'm this band that's a pain in the ass for me. I'm being able to like book for like $100 to $200 a night. You're not worth my headache at that point. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of work, a lot of sweat equity, like you said, into a band, that's not, and like we kind of were talking earlier, there's not really like the levels aren't exactly fair or obvious of like where bands stand, like you have like grade A bands, and then you could have what you would call like mid-tier bands, and then like lower level bands, and it's so muddy, like the 51% of bands that we'll call like successful good bands. I don't want to like use bands as examples or anything and be insulting, but there's the bands that are obviously very successful. You see it on the Billboard charts. You see it, with various, accolades, gold records, or platinum if you're, really amazing. But the divisions of where bands stand is something we discussed earlier, and so like seeing where those bands, where do they think they're at? That's a really good question to ask them, to just to gauge where are they in reality. You know what I mean? Like, are they a band that does think that like they're the next best thing since sliced bread, and they're they should be on they expect to be on all the best tours, and if you're not getting us great tours and you're a failed agent or whatever, and so I'm definitely not ever interested in setting myself up for failure, so right away I'll be like, if I don't see what that band sees, I'm not afraid to let them know, like, check it out, reality check in the mail, coming to you right now, go catch it, let me talk to you about it. So I just those kind of questions, and finding out, like, I'm not a dude, I'll put it out here, I don't do retainers. I've never been a feller that's like, oh, like I'm going to need a retainer to work with you. I've never done that. And I won't, because it's like, if I have to dig you, like, to invest my time into you. So if I'm not really digging your band, I'm not really digging you as people, I don't want to work with you. I don't care if you are going to, send me $1,000 to my PayPal to, book you 20 shows or whatever, however these folks do it. That's not me. I'm not interested in any of that. So yeah, man, I need to know that you do have money, though, because it is, to be successful, you're going to need it. Not for me, but to be able to, promote your brand. You have to like you said, at least if I'm booking these shows, where, I'm going to get a $10 commission off of you or something. Could you at least drop that money you would have paid me in a retainer to like promote the show in Tulsa, Oklahoma that you're about to play? Can we drop, like you said, can we just drop like $5 even into a promotion for Kansas City or something? Just do some targeted work. So yeah, do you have money to do even just the basic things? I'm not going to say, well, you could never buy onto a big tour, so I don't want to work with you. No, if I believe in a band, I will work really hard. I'll work as hard as they will. I will try to match their efforts to, get them to the next level and continue to work and become great. So yeah, what's your transportation like? If you don't have any, or if you're of the renting variety, then again, let's talk about your finances, because you're going to need to get something, and if you're going to rent, then we need to talk about that, because that is a very fixed and real expense that, you're going to have the money for. Usually you can get all the answers out of those questions. And then, like you said, what's your story? Tell me about your band. Tell me about the beginning. Tell me, I do want to hear those things. Tell me about, you can get a lot out of a singular member of a band, and kind of get an idea off of what he said. And then talking to other members of the band, it might be a different story, and that's a red flag too, and so
definitely
just acquiring intel. But there's the three basic things is, do you suck? Can you work hard? Do you have a few bucks?
You have money.
So, if we're having a conversation and the band's like, yeah, we can't play shows for less than X amount. And I'm like, I don't see it. I might not be your guy, and I'm okay with saying that. I'd rather nip it in the bud right away. I'm not the dude for you. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass and tell you that, yeah, we can do this, and then create more headache for myself and just pass on that with me. Okay, so yeah, we have to be on the same page ultimately, as far as the three core questions.
Yeah, what the big picture is, sort of thing. And again, sometimes people just as soon as they get paid, they've done their job, sort of thing. It's funny because even bringing up, like, even on your end, asking the band, like, do we have budget for anything? Do we have money? Not for me, but for other things. There was a time here in Toronto with some of the bands I was considering getting a label together to help push some of these bands that I was working with or wanted to work with. And one of my questions in the meeting with the band was, how quick can you guys come up with 10 grand? And just watching their body language, because there was one band in particular where they had a new member, they had a new drummer in the band, and he was just like grilling me and pretty much selling the band on the idea that I was trying to just scam them out of 10 grand. And I'm just like, you guys missed what I was actually talking about. Because there's a couple bands that had the right response to that question. If I asked you, Nick, how quickly can you come up with 10 grand? Your response is probably, what's it for? That's right. Always the thing. That's always, what is it for? It's like, and that was my thing. I wanted to make sure the band had money to do a small radio campaign for one of the songs they liked, to make sure they could do a proper photo shoot. If there's money to do a video, so if we have 10 grand, it's like, I don't worry about my end getting paid up front as much as like, let's get a couple of songs and try to get the ball rolling to try to get the band out there. That was what I was thinking. But when bands
let's start making real money. Let's generate real interest. Let's generate real opportunities. The money will come, and I'd like to be there when it happens.
Yeah,
as opposed to taking your money quick, having you guys get salty feelings because things aren't the way you want them to be, and then all of a sudden somebody's got to be to blame. So who's that going to be? The guy who got paid money that didn't deliver on the various things that you were hoping would happen, and I don't know. I guess I'm just old. I'm old school that way. And it's,
I step on my dick often because of it. But I'm like one of those people too. I believe, you have a manager. I'll tell you what does a manager do for you? How much is the manager investing into your band? Because you know what I mean? It's like, if you're just paying somebody to be your manager, like I would anticipate to see a band doing great things, but I just come from the day where a manager basically is like ex member of the band, he is like, not on the stage, but he is every bit integral to the band and the success of the band, and not just some dude, on paper, you know what I mean? Like
that's one of my things. I'm probably going to regret saying what I'm about to say here, but I don't care. I'm getting older. There's many times when I hear a band's manager and it's an instant red flag for me that the band might be useless. If I don't think the band's got enough going on where they really need a manager, I'm like, so what is the manager actually doing aside from just being a middle person between me and the band? When we can just talk to the band. But it's like, I understand when a band needs a tour manager. When there's too much stuff to take care of and you can only spread yourself around. I understand when a band needs a dedicated
tour manager
person.
Different. Yeah.
But there's like bands can do these things, but it hits a point where you're going to spread yourself so thin where you're just like, it's just make it another job. It's another job description. Just get someone else to fill that role. But there's enough bands, especially when there's nothing there to manage. And that's the response I got back from one of the guys that I was kind of hoping would manage Dead Set. He's just like, give me a call when there's something to manage. And he didn't mean it in like a disrespecting down way. It's just there wasn't enough going on where like, I feel like I can really step in and help, steer the ship for what's going on. But yeah, it's just sometimes when I hear, artists or bands have managers and I'm just like, so you have someone to vent about to the music industry?
Yeah.
Or like, what are they doing?
It can say a lot too. Like exactly. Like when it's like, you reach out to a band or, I think that, a band could be cool to like book regionally here or something or there for a show, nobody really major, maybe not even 5,000 fans on their Facebook, and I'll be like, hit them up if they'd be interested in opening this show or joining this bill on whatever date. And I'll be like, yeah, man, here, hit up my manager. And that's the best way for me to be like, you have a manager who says everything. Dealing with your man, you are not big enough for me to have to deal with a manager. Like, you're silly. You just saw yourself in the foot, clown. So, good point. Definitely is a red flag.
That being said, as far as like Dead Set Dance Machine, like I kind of wear the manager hat for those, but we do also have management. We do have FM management, but the thing is what I liked about them. Frank has got a lot of fingers in booking and venues.
That's
Bob
another thing.
is a radio guy, and Dino is like with accounting and bookkeeping, but also like Dino has been in the bands, so he's the voice of a reason. Sometimes, if management doesn't understand something, and Dino could step in and be like, the band will die if they do that. So if they do that long enough, sort of thing.
FM's righteous. Great team over there. Great people.
Great. Yeah.
It's a different thing. Like you said, it's more of a hub of thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's people facilitating roles that need to be facilitated for your band.
Yeah, and it's contacts, it's network, it's like that's all the things when I started digging in more with what they had to offer. Because I'm pretty hands-on with things, but it's like what they had to offer, I was like, these are all really good team members to have and to partner with and stuff. So I do see a difference between manager and management as far as things. And they
I would concur.
A difficult year because like so much was revolving around touring, which kind of I've got you for an hour and 20 minutes so far. You got a couple more minutes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Kind of segueing from that with management and booking. How did you survive this year when things started kind of shutting down in March or April? Like, were you rebooking tours and just trying to like?
Oh yeah, no, I was like basically selling my body to people on the internet. Yeah, and, like, just basically put it out there like that. Very sexy, very, very intimate, man. No, yeah, no. Okay, so like, yeah, man, I've tried to stay in front of everything as much as we could, and I mean, I have continued to work. I have artists and bands that we do have little pocket markets where we have been able to go and do smaller run style tours and try to be as busy as possible and as safe as possible while doing so. And so, I mean, yeah, as far as rebooking tours, no. I mean, we had some cool ones, that didn't get to happen and likely won't happen. They were just smaller bands that were just trying to stay busy, but it was a pretty rad lineup that we had put together for Dropout Kings, Tala, and Heartsick. That would have been awesome. Another one of the bands that, I work with heavily, booking and at the label Godsize, Heartsick. They were to be on a tour that was supposed to happen last April, which was a Combi Christ, King 810, and a Killer's Confession. And yeah, so that, wasn't actually, I wasn't the responsible agent for that tour. So I didn't really have to do any of the headache work of trying to, I mean, yeah, it's basically that tour got moved like 3 times now. So, I mean, I don't envy, any agent that has to do that, there were some guys who just did killer jobs when all this stuff happened, and really major tours that got screwed, like, including bands from overseas, which, as you just travel across an imaginary line, but there's actually, you consider
that goes into it.
Yeah. And then when you factor in like actually, flying across the ocean or something, how hard it can be to get all of your essential information and everything together to be able to tour outside of your country, and it can be extremely difficult. So especially given a pandemic, and I mean, there's some places where I don't think we could travel freely back and forth if we wanted to. So that's always a thing.
It's the joys of working from home.
Yeah. So I forgot where I was.
Or just talking about just the overseas tours, and just like there's a lot of moving parts to a tour. And so when it gets canceled or postponed, or you're just trying to move it, it's just like there's a lot of things.
Yeah. And so there was a couple agents that just absolutely killed it. Being able to put things back together and then to watch them fall apart again. It's horrible.
Yeah, well, no, that's part of it. Actually reminded me, like, some bands don't realize how much work goes into booking a few, like, say you're trying to book 15 shows in 21 days, like how much work can go into that. And so if there's any hiccups, it's like, or if a show falls through at the last minute sort of thing, or if like, or you, there's so many variables, and I don't even know where you start.
It's like if I got paid by the hour, I'd be rich as hell. So some days, yeah, it's like literally from you wake up literally to emails on your phone, like as like imaginary alarm clocks, and but they're not imaginary; they're very real. But and I mean, you're doing it until you're finally like, all right, power down the computer and basically fall asleep 20 minutes later. So, you would think anywhere else in the world, a whole day's work, literally from, the minute you wake up to the time you go to sleep, you would be seeing a pretty good financial reward. And that is not the case. Here you have to work, it's all commission based on my end. So I got to work hard if I want to make $1, and I don't see anything wrong with that at all. But
you do run into a lot of people who don't. They think it's just, everybody wants to book their band. Like it's just like, a super easy thing. Like I'm like spending my day fending off all these potential buyers and trying to sift through all the offers, and it's a really regal and wonderful thing. And that is not the case. Typically it involves, calling, wasting a bunch of time, bullshitting with somebody who you would otherwise probably not, be spending half a day on a phone with, just to try to get, $150 guarantee for Johnny Schmuck and the, Blue Clowns band. And, they don't get it. They'd be like, I don't know. This isn't, you book a whole tour and you're like, here you go. And they're like, oh, this just isn't enough. Our expenses are,
you couldn't get us $1,000 in Iowa on a Monday.
We'll be drowning every night. I'm like, that is called your problem, not my problem. Here's what we're looking at. These are the reality of touring. Like, this is what people think you're worth. So that's what, I can't change that. Like, like I am not like, David Copperfield or whatever. Is he still a magician? I'm basically saying I'm not Jesus. I can't turn water into wine. I try to, that's what I try to be very upfront with bands about. It's like, I'm just the dude taking your, your band and your want to play shows on the road across America. And I'm taking your information to these people that I know that book these shows and book these clubs. There is no, like, they're not just waiting for me to come to them and be like, I need $500 for this band on Wednesday, October 31st. Like, no, that's not the way it works. So unfortunately it is a lot of work. It's not always a lot of reward, but I'm not dead yet. And so, just like with the bands that I work with, seeing the big picture, I'm looking at a big picture for myself as well, and keep trying to grind and chip away to a place where I feel like I'm making a definite positive impact in the industry and being able to help the bands that I really, feel righteously about and feel like could also have an impact in the music industry and on the world, of music fans and whatnot. So
no, you're part of a lot of bands' family, I'm sure at this point. You can always call Nick. You can always ask Nick. So
I am here. I don't really have much else to do. Like, as I alluded to, this is
what we do. It's what we're good at.
Yeah.
I will say, whenever I get to a routing in, I don't, because again, with a lot of bands, like, realize that it's very rare that all your guarantees are going to be the same. And I would say too, like, just because you get paid $100 in one city doesn't mean you get paid $100 in each city, because you can get paid $100 in one city and get paid $1,000 in another city. So, like, be mindful of the region.
Market dependency. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's a huge part. But
because go ahead.
No,
I was just going to refer back to radio, and that's one thing we don't have as much now. Is radio. Like, so there are some markets we'll go to, and just like with, we'll bring up Tense or Dead Set. There's markets where you're active, your single is being played, the radio station has interest in your band. And then we can go to a big market the next night and they don't have rock radio. They don't give a shit about your band, and then it is what it is. So it's all very market variable. Like, me and Jeff with SLM that I book shows with and stuff. We were just talking today about, various bands like the Flaws and the, which I would call, obviously they're not top tier bands, but they're bands that are still out working, still have value, still, they're not living off of greatest hits records or whatever. They're still out making new music, staying relevant. And
and just the price variable from market to market, like you, that's another thing. Yeah. Like you said, you'd have to just be so understanding of is, yeah, man, you might be making, $500 this market, but you have like a handful of $1,500 guarantees,
That's gonna balance some stuff out
in these markets. Yeah. And it's like, and obviously you want to get to those markets, and make those guarantees and have those great shows and keep on building in those markets. So, you have to take these $500 guarantees and these, in these markets in between to get to those places. And that's working smart. And, like you said, you're investing in your band and that's a constant thing that doesn't really ever end. I don't believe,
No.
The bigger you get, maybe, the more you're investing or the less you're investing or whatever it may be, but I don't think it ever ends. I think it's a constant evolution that just will always continue. I mean, even if you're Kiss or whatever, they certainly don't stop promoting and no, building, so it just all really boils down to that.
So I wanted to say, like, back with the guarantees thing, it's like spreadsheets. Like, look at the spreadsheets and again, take your guarantees on a tour and total it up, and that's what the actual number is that you're looking at. Don't worry about the shows that don't pay that as much. Don't worry about the shows that just pay the most. But it's like, look at what your average is. Does it make sense?
Big picture, yeah.
Yeah, big picture. I would say, too, when Dead Set went out with Fozzy, because we wanted to do Canada, because you need someone in front of you to do Canada. And
piggyback, yeah.
Yeah, Fozzy Tour came up. I was like, sweet, like, let's do that. But, like, full disclosure, we lost money every single night across Canada. Because the expenses, your hotels, your gas, your food, like, everything is just more going across. But what we did was come back through the States. And we got better guarantees coming back to the States. And that's what balanced everything out. And it's like, and it's funny how, like, you're
work smart.
Yeah, it's just like, it's being able to put that stuff in the spreadsheet. And it's just like, know where your markets are. Because the idea of coming back through, I never really know what the Midwest actually is. But basically for us coming back through Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, it's just like, I know we'll do well there. So when we came back and you start getting some money coming in and balance it inside the tour. So it's just spreadsheets. The more successful you are in business, the more you are staring at spreadsheets. So again, you think you're playing music all the time. No, you're figuring out how to put, quick macros and stuff into your Excel.
Yeah, you definitely, like you said, it's a game of many hats. I mean, not everybody has to, in the band has to be, but you definitely, it's definitely good to have a team like like you alluded to too. Is building that team that's gonna, basically serve as what would have been your manager and your A&R and your public relations and all these different official employees of your band that you would have back in those days. Now, yeah, you're to be successful and keep overhead low and really keep your machine rolling. Yeah, it's good to have those abilities in-house. And so however you build your team, having those individuals and having the ability to do those things are great. And that goes back to when you're on those bigger tours and meeting those people and acquiring and diversifying your own database, and a lot of that stuff starts to come a little bit easier, as you start to accumulate just different instances or, different, like you said, tour managers or even just bands and their management or their labels, their agents, you meet them all. It's a small world. It's pretty incestuous in the music industry. So
everyone knows each other.
Right.
Once you hit a certain point, you realize everyone knows each other.
So yeah, the best you can do to come off as a stand-up righteous cat, the better, and you're gonna meet a lot more people that way and get put into touch with people that can help you grow and become more successful and be able to acquire bigger and better bands, and that's what we all want, right? I mean, we're all looking to take the next step always. So,
all right, I've had you for an hour and a half. I have one more quick / possibly long question. Bands going into 2021, what are you seeing the tour? Like, where are you placing your chips right now for touring next year? In the U.S., to be specific.
I mean, there's markets that are already, there's little patches of the states that, if a band wants to go out and tour, they can. As far as like real touring, big touring, coming back, man, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are trying to stay in front of everything, the best that they can, and that are trying to have a plan. But I'm just Nic Bell. I'm just a little, fish in a big ass pond, and so, with what I have in my little circle of the industry and whatnot, we're continuing to work and to try to stay in front of everything and be ready, because when the floodgates open, it's gonna be wild. Like, it's gonna be a riptide, and a lot of bands could get washed away not being ready, or like, there's only so many opportunities, that are gonna
so many dates and so many venues, and
exactly.
Once it opens, it is floodgates. It really will be floodgates.
Yes. So it's like, I'm trying to put myself into positions to be ready when that happens, and kind of have stuff preliminarily in place already with different venues or clubs or promoters. And, worst thing, God forbid, a big ass tour tries to come in and get the same date, and my tour gets to be a part of that show. That's a win for me. I mean, that's just another perk of being a early bird. So, and I think that with my position in the industry and whatnot, not being, at one of the huge agencies that are taking, different precautions or, different situations that prohibit them from working even if they wanted to. So I think that gives me a little bit of an advantage to be able to stay on top of these things and to try to, get the most out of the situation that we can. So, like, the bands that I'm working with right now and that we're booking, they get it, like, a lot of these places we're working with limited capacities, or just different situations of, not being able to promote like they used to because, the promoter or venue just doesn't have the finances to do it because their budgets have changed given the circumstances. So there's a lot of things that go into the new world. And I guess, like, I don't want to like call it the new norm, but like, there's definitely situations that we're working with, and even with, like a bigger tour, like I could say, like, one of the bigger tours happening in the world, one of the bigger tickets right now is my tour, and that's the Ellefson tour. David's tour that they're out doing, Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses, and Dave Sharp and Opus from Dead by Wednesday, Tom Hazard. They're going out and they're doing, very select runs and, these limited capacity clubs. And, even they get it. Like, this is, we can't cram people in. We have to observe these different protocols that are in place right now, and it just doesn't allow for what you would typically get, as a guarantee or or different types of situations, so there's a lot to be figured out yet. I guess that's kind of what we're doing. We're just kind of, again, beta testing how the new norm could be for a while. And so for 2021, I don't know. Bigger tours, maybe not at all. I do know that there's some festivals that are obviously
announcing
and coming out, and they're getting in front of it and trying to, be as proactive as possible. But I don't think we really know anything until, Live Nation's got us all by the balls, pretty hardcore too, So, there's a lot of pieces that kind of have to move, I guess, before a lot of other things can happen. But, I guess they're reporting now. I don't know. I saw the news, like what a vaccine with the 90%.
90%. Yeah. So again,
that was quick. Like I said, right after the election, you can bank on something good to happen in regards to us. That's why I said it doesn't matter if the donkey or the elephant wins. I guarantee after this election, we will find a vaccine miraculously somewhere, and everything will be all good, or better.
Just took an extra week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny how things work out sometimes, but I'm optimistic for next year.
Yeah.
As much as things shut down really quick, I've been telling people, I think when things start to open up, it's not going to be as gradual as people think. It'll be like, okay, we've got a bit of a handle on this, and okay.
Yeah.
Like
everybody will go out and realize they didn't die and the sky is not falling. Okay, wow.
We'll get through it. Yeah,
this was fun. I forgot how fun this was.
Yeah, we'll get through it. So
yeah. So 2021 in my world, yeah, we're every day we're trying to get in front of it and trying to fill calendars and put together tour routings for bands that have an understanding of what it actually is right now. Especially, it is a much different world, and it's there's risks, all different kinds to doing it. So, but a lot of bands, like many businesses, they don't have a choice. Like they have to get out and work. Time lost, it can be detrimental, just like to any business, that had a certain business plan or a certain operative in place, and like that money's got to come back from somewhere, somehow. Some people have to get to work, and
you're seeing bands fold this year too. Just pack it in.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff from, labels and agencies, like that's one thing. Like I've been wanting to submit my bands for potential bigger tours that might happen in 21, but I don't even know where half of these agents are falling. After there's so many that are no longer with the bigger agency. The 8 bigger agencies have consolidated or sized down, just cut a bunch of fat. And so I don't even know where half these guys are or what they're doing, as far as submitting my bands for different tours. So just waiting to see what the fallout of all of this is, from my venue list and promoter list. It's smaller every day, it's just, so it's everywhere, from bands folding to labels folding, venues, agencies, everything. So, it's not easy. My overhead for the things that I do, and, the way that I operate, I can withstand this. I have a good support system, with my friends and family. Dude, can you hear the dinging when that happens?
I can hear that.
Yeah, because that's Mike P, which I'm sure you're well aware of Mike P. So if you don't respond,
if you don't
respond to him, sometimes he'll go a little crazy here. So I had to mute him for an hour. So my bad on that.
I think we're both on the same page. The idea of getting in front of stuff right now, and I've told my bands, I told other bands I've talked to, it's just like it's okay if you make plans and they fall through in the music industry. Make more plans after. If you don't make any plans, then you don't have anything going on. So it's like if your tour gets pushed back or if dates get canceled, or because again, once things open up, it's going to be a feeding frenzy as far as dates. And like if you don't have the leverage, you're probably going to get bumped, and you might get like, I can imagine if things opened up in the summer, just imagine if there's only 6 months to try to fill up like a year's worth of dates for people.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of bands that could end up with another year
open.
Yeah. There's a good chance you could lose another year in an opened up world just because
you weren't ahead of it.
There's not enough availabilities to build a tour out of. You know what I mean? Like the clubs will just be so we're talking about less clubs, so there's less opportunities, to book into. We don't get extra days. Like we still are working with 365. You know what I mean? So it's like there's only so much time, dates, venues, money, opportunities to go around. And so, I feel like if you're not in front of it, you're probably going to get washed away.
It's going to hurt even more knowing that like you could be out playing and you're not. Because you didn't get in front of it.
That's what I mean. And so that's a whole nother. Then you have to re-game plan to try to make that world work for you for now. While you struggle and hope for something to come. As the year passes on, and you're just looking for 2022 at that point. And
it's not going to be.
And this is unprecedented.
Yeah. It's not going to be fair and kind once shows open back up.
No. So. But that's why I'm saying that's my advice to everybody who asks me is like, get in front of it. Yeah.
Act now.
Worst case scenario, the world's still shut down. And then it's like, well, now what do you want me to do? It's not my fucking fault. Like the world is shut down. Like, the fans can die mad about it. Matter of fact, I mean, that seems to be what's going on. So if we could play, we would play. That's all bands want to do at their very core. Is they want to go and play their music for you. So trust me, that's all anybody wants to do. And so the sooner we can get back to that as a whole, the better.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I just want to, again, Nic, I really appreciate it. Almost 2 hours I've had you here chatting about stuff. Lots of great insight for the bands, again, at all the different levels. And again, there's a lot of information for bands that want to take things to the next level, but they're not sure how to go about it. So I think you've filled in some of the gaps with things they need to work on and things they need to be mindful for. I wanted to put this up here for our good friend Jeremy as well. Nic is so underappreciated, underrated person. I know I can't do his schedule. We appreciate you, Nic. So many.
Jeremy Isbell, that guy has a schedule. Let's talk. That guy has some days that don't even end. Like Thursday goes all the way to Sunday for him. Like and then he has to sleep. And like the guy, he's a robot, man. He's hardcore.
The most calm and even keel people I've ever met.
But and a legend.
Both of you. Might be something in the water where you guys are. So
that is kind of how we are around these parts, man.
But Nic, we do appreciate you, and we do not take what you do for bands for granted. So I just want to, on behalf of all the bands you work with, we all love you. We all think you do a great job, and your heart's in the right place.
I know. Do you know who actually hooked us up?
Who, Jeremy?
Dave Narusovich from Vices.
From Vices, ah.
Yeah. Dave, shout out to Dave. So
those are good guys, fun guys.
They broke up. They're done.
They just broke up. I know. I did see that. They've. But again, this year has been kind of like that. Some bands having to
especially with bands like that kind of were working on a business template, and their business template got disrupted, and it's pretty much over at that point.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. It's tough. But again, it's bands bands at a professional level, it's gonna sound redundant, but bands at a professional level, they are business models. They are businesses, and when it doesn't work anymore, it's okay to kind of, you know, either put it on hold or shut it down or go separate ways. Because it, like, you have to, again, spreadsheets, calendars, personal
Rebrand.
goals. Yeah, there's so many things that do fall into that. So I'm not gonna open the floor up for questions. Because I've had you for 2 hours. I'd love to have you back on here. Hopefully, you know, let's say 6 months from now, once things are open and bands are out doing stuff, and we can talk about, you know, what the landscape's looking like and whatnot. So
sure, anytime.
Nic, anything you want to plug? Because again, you've got your agency, you've got your label. Where can they find you online?
I'm on the Facebook. So I am Nicholas Bell Sr. on the Facebook, and then you can find all the fun stuff that I like to party with. And you know, again, I am that guy. I'm a sharer. So you will definitely
handles.
One9 booking agency. That's WONE, the number 9 bookingagency.com, godsizerecords.com.
Got your .coms. That's good.
Got Ellison, ETA, EllisonTouringAgency.com. You know, I just started working with a band that I'm really stoked about called Mantra of Morta out of Indiana, female fronted. I know that people don't like that, but you know, it is a thing. Like, this is a band that has a female vocalist. Some people like it, some people don't, but they're really, really, really cool. I'm excited to work with them, and so you should check them out. And you know, yeah, go also buy that brand new Left 4 Dead, the Maniacal Hour. It's old to me, but it's new to you.
It's up on Spotify. I was in case you didn't plug it, I was going to throw it.
It's on the Spotify. It's on everywhere. Music is sold digitally. Intercept Music, obviously, and you know, feel free to hit me up on the interwebs for some one-on-one, and you know, I might even send you off a disc. You know what I'm saying? So,
sounds good. All right, all those details, I'll put them in the YouTube replay. I'll put them in the description below, so you have easy links for everything.
Radical.
Nic, again, I can't thank you enough for the better part of 2 hours. Again, all the bands that have been listening to this for years to come, they'll really appreciate the time capsule that has been the COVID era for bands. Hopefully it's just
the COVID era,
and the before times. Yeah. And just and moving forward. Cause again, like everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but like the majority of people I know that work in music full time, we find ways to adapt. We find ways to just keep moving forward. And we know what it's like when you're pushing the rock and you're just like, there's not a lot happening right now, but we still feel like we are working, and it could work. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. You know,
yeah. Sometimes you got to know when to pull the plug, for sure. You know, like it definitely comes to a point where you're like, this isn't working. It's me, or it's you, or it's both of us. Or
it's just not working.
Probably you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no. I thank you for having me. You're one of the best dudes in the entire world, Mike Langford, and your band's amazing. Probably one of the best 3 pieces out there right now. So I look forward to the day when you guys can get back to work, and we as fans and everybody can enjoy what you're doing. So I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate this whole DearBands podcast that you do, that I think is kind of funny and needed. So
that's good to know.
I'm glad to be a part and officially, a part of the show, and I look forward to coming back.
The DearBands family.
That's right.
Sounds good, Nic. I'll see you out in a second. I'm just going to wrap things up here.
Sounds great.
See you in a minute. All right. Excellent. Mr. Nic Bell Sr. Again, can't thank him enough for being on the episode tonight. Again, DearBands Live, DearBands Podcast. I'm really leaning towards rebranding some of this. Again, there's a lot that goes into a band getting on the road and getting on tour. There's a lot of expectations that we would both agree need to be kind of kept in check, especially when you're starting out. Again, easy rule of thumb: be on time, be kind, be patient, be good. as far as your band's playing and your performance and stuff like that. But I think those four basic elements will get you, will help you build a lot of friends and help build a solid fan base. Last thing I wanted to say again, Nic is one of the most humble people I've met in the music business. He does excellent work. Lots of people know who he is. A comment he made about himself. This is Nic. He said, he's a small fish in a big pond. Nic is not a small fish in a big pond. Nic is a good size fish in a big pond, but he's also one of the coolest fish in that pond in general. So again, thanks, Nic. Thanks everybody for hopping on tonight. The questions, I know I left a few off to the side in the comments. I do my best to try to get to them, and we just keep chatting. So, all right, next Monday, I'll be back with another episode. There's a couple of people that I'm talking to right now, but have it on Monday. I just want to see where I want to go with the narrative of things, because again, hopefully we are able to get back out touring sooner than later. So I'd like to talk to some more people about how they've been navigating the waters of COVID this year and going into hopefully getting back playing next year, what their plans are if they cannot for a while. So thanks again, everybody. Again, I'm Mike from heylangford.com and DearBands. Just going to get this set up here. Thanks for watching. See you next Monday.